Dr. Freeman. Is it really that time again?
What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the main channel once again. And we are back with another reaction video. Now, today sees the 20th anniversary of Half-Life 2, a revolutionary in gaming history. And Halo 2 had its 20th anniversary recently as well, so 2 video game sequels in the space of a month. It's crazy to think about, isn't it? Time passes so fast. But anyway, I'm here again, as I said, with a reaction video, because we are watching the 20th anniversary documentary that was uploaded by Valve a few hours ago, roughly 18 last time I checked. And I've got the orange LED light active, actually. Should it be dark? Should it be dark or orange? Yeah, that looks better. I don't know if it looks orange on the face cam, it might do, who knows. But anyway, I'm just going to put my earbuds on, my headphones, excuse me, and we're just going to get into it. Also, outside of the occasion I get my dinner out, it's pretty simple. Yeah, if you've ever had potato smiles, then you're a G. If you had potato smiles as a kid, then you're you know what? If you had potato smiles as a child, then you're a legend. I'm going to stop, and if you see me eating, just ignore it. Let's get into it. And go. Plugged in.
I always had been doing since my childhood a bit of urban exploration, so I love to break through a window of an abandoned factory or building or train station. So that's one of my hobbies used to be. What's on the roofs of buildings? You know, what's in an abandoned building cellar and in a factory? We did a lot of work on this.
I mean, in the case of the train station, I guess that would make sense. It's so weird seeing real life locations that actually look like they fit into Half-Life 2.
When I did my first photo shoot of the Austerlitz station, it was under construction. But then there was no security guards, no fences. Even you can just walk and see the broken textures and layers of paint and brick and history. And
just like in the game.
So cool that I can get this information before it got overbuilt with a new neighborhood. I went to check it out last night, and it happens to be completely destroyed and under construction again. And it just goes back, luckily, coincidentally, to the exact same state where I shot it 25 years ago, actually.
That's really interesting, though. So many places under construction, and yet it works so well for the game. Oh, now we're getting into the nitty-gritty of things, boys. It's amazing to see how far it's come. I could say the same thing about Half-Life's 25th anniversary, with the documentary on that. I might have to react. I might have to react to that on video again. Let me know if you're interested in that. Oh, actual gameplay footage. Yeah. CP violation playing in the background. Oh, the Hunter Chopper as well. Oh. Move my mouse. Sorry. Nice shots. To celebrate the 20th anniversary of Half-Life 2, we interviewed most of the original team. But the story of Half-Life 2's development is more complex than that of the first game. Yeah, several internal and external factors contributed to a long and often arduous development cycle. Most of the story has never been told until now. Ah, gee man. Well, one thing we do know is the beta leak of 2003. That's one of the most iconic ones. Chapter 1, Raising the Bar. I heard the book's getting resold as well.
So one of the
I'm looking forward to getting my hands on that.
With Half-Life was just establishing the company and sort of determining whether or not we could actually make video games at all. Like my background was
down below,
operating systems and spreadsheets. Mike Harrington, who was the co-founder, had a similar background. He had a little more game experience than I did. But with Half-Life, we were pretty sure we were going to fail. And then Half-Life was successful. It was like a lot more successful than we had any reason to expect. And now we had to follow it up, right? We didn't want to have a sophomore slump. We didn't want to be a one and done kind of company. So now we had the terrifying obligation to our customers and to our fans to somehow advance our game design skills, our technology, all needed to level up for the second game.
I think a bunch of us were really shocked by the success of Half-Life 1. We were this young, unproven company. I don't think any of us really knew what to expect when we finished the game. I remember when we started working on Half-Life 2, we had already set the bar pretty high for ourselves.
So during Half-Life 2, what we were really trying to do is take advantage of the visibility that Half-Life had created for us in the industry to continue to hire the best people that we could find in the world.
5
it
stars.
just got easier. The bar didn't get any lower, but the fact that we had, it went from, hey, this weird dude who worked on operating systems wants to convince you he can run a game company to, oh, Half-Life won a bunch of awards, and now they're working on a sequel to that.
It was either
Game of the year.
first week or my first day.
1998.
Was actually the going away party for Mike Harrington, the co-founder.
Yeah, I came to Valve when it was just tiny. We had, I think, or maybe 10 or so people. Dave and I grew up together in Louisiana, so he and I had always talked about maybe starting a game company at some point. And during Half-Life, that kind of changed to maybe instead of that, the dream could be you come and work here at this one, with me.
Yeah, and I interviewed the day that Half-Life went gold, and I took the team photo of.
There's like an old photo of us. We broke a paper mache head crab and everything.
Yeah, that is sick though.
Yeah.
I was actually working on a video game concept in high school, and I was seeking a mentor, and I got in touch with Mark Laidlaw at Valve. I guess it was the right time and right place, and quite a bit of luck, and I ended up getting an internship that way. I guess I was 17 at the time.
So you've got a whole company that's familiar with tools and a whole process, and then we just started over. Like, we rebuilt the tools and we rebuilt the engine. So at this long period of time, where we could sort of take our time on design.
Software.
And so we spent a lot of time working on story and just trying to figure out how to make this thing bigger, like somehow more epic. And those discussions eventually led to this idea that, so in Half-Life 1, you open this portal, some strange rift to another dimension. And we thought, well, what if that broadcasts
it would be a dimension.
the signal to the universe that's like, oh, there's this planet there, it's free air and water. And so then we sort of came up with this idea of, well, there's this mega organization that's resource starved, and they're just gonna come and take it if they can.
How many years passed between? 6?
Yeah.
So I would say the first 2 years, we tried a lot of things.
Mark Laidlaw.
And a lot of those stories, arcs that we had initially didn't have really any carryover from Black
console.
Mesa or any of that.
There was originally going to be three
That's one name I
different
recognize.
alien races, like the bugs or religious ones, and the Antlions actually came out of that bug race that was supposed to be a much bigger
the
part
Antlion
of the game.
It had 3 alien races, the warrior aliens, the insect aliens, and the spy aliens. And it had like a Prague-like city, which ended up being the closest thing to City 17. In a lot of ways, it reminds me of writing music. Everyone was sort of riffing ideas on, well, what if we did this or tried that? I remember we were really ambitious at the beginning. I remember we designed, 4 cities?
Well, it was early
at
concept
one
was
point,
Citadel, I
Prague,
think.
Jerusalem, Chicago, Los Angeles, I believe. We had an Arctic base, an underwater base, an icebreaker ship.
Was it
an
Kraken
airplane
Base? That was
sequence
it.
that crashed into
The name of the underwater
a
base.
high rise, which we cut right after 9/11. We had several combine bases in the wasteland. We had the Air Exchange, which
The Air
is where they were
Exchange.
taking,
It's
the
one of
atmosphere
the
from Earth.
iconic ones.
We had a train depot and so on. So we really obviously had to scale back what we were trying to do. But that's okay to go a little bit nuts at the beginning.
I saw it almost as like sophomore anxiety, maybe. Oh wow, we have to surpass Half-Life, and Half-Life was important, and so it was like this unbounded ambition.
And we kept asking ourselves.
Sometimes you want to make it better than the first one.
Well, how is this Half-Life?
That was definitely the case with Bad Boys 2.
First-person narrator, you could you could tell people this is Gordon and throw that character into literally any environment and say, yeah, this is Half-Life.
Oh, the Manhack Arcade.
Unless the environment is telling you that that's the case, you're not, it's very arbitrary. So we've wrestled with that a long time. Slowly, the sort of grab bag of characters we had,
I forgot his name,
we
Dr.
started to feel
Watson.
like there was connections between them, and then at some point we realized, oh, we could make this out of the science team, the survivors from Black Mesa, and suddenly that for me was the idea of it's a science team. Suddenly you could put those guys anywhere, and because they have like a familial interconnectedness, and they recognize Gordon, that will make you feel like it's a continuation of this story. Obviously Alex was totally new to that universe, but she had a father who had been at Black Mesa, and he and the other scientists were friends, and they had extended their relationship into this new world.
Dr. Court, I think it is.
That was
the early iteration of Kleiner.
The science team, and that was a while till we got there.
You know, much like the first one, where all the contributors were really
Ted Bachman, that's another name I recognize.
Deciding on the direction, is we were really making a push to grow the team and hire new artists. You know, Zabi Ng was an influential early contributor. I think, you know, he and I were doing character designs for Gordon and for Alex and for
Captain Vance,
some of the antagonist Combine characters.
At the time, I was looking at a lot of, I mean, really the helmets, which I think are kind of one of their defining features, was based off some gas masks from Europe that I had seen in some reference. I remember doing early concepts of the new HEV suit, like what's Gordon gonna be now? And I had kind of just started, and so I was like, I'm gonna make this my own. It looked, I guess, kind of like the still suits in Dune, but black and a lot more belt buckles and latex. And Gabe was just kind of
I was gonna say, it was a lot more latex.
I was like really proud and excited. It's like, why is it not orange? You know, it's like, or something to that effect of essentially like, why are you giving up this iconic part of the character?
Yeah, the color is the iconic part.
People love that. So what are you doing?
There it is.
Like, you know,
that's what makes Gordon Freeman.
Yeah, I guess he's right.
Look at him.
So we kind of went back to the drawing board and ended up with what shipped.
And we had like, I don't know, so many creatures that we tried and abandoned, you know, not because they were bad, because we had better things to pursue, you know, more, like there were the sack ticks, the cremator, the crab.
I think I remember those. The cremator,
definitely. Like the stalkers we had a little bit in the game.
Yeah, we shipped the stalkers, but not as an adversary that you
Not
fought.
an adversary.
Yeah, there was definitely an evolution of
the cremator's the probably most
biological versus
interesting
how
one.
synthetic a lot of the creatures in Half-Life 2 were.
Mind you, you can't see it in Eli's lab.
I was always hoping to get to a space where it was ambiguous, you know, where you couldn't quite tell if this was created or if it was natural or synthetic.
There was some synths I did that never shipped. Actually, we did ship them. They were at the end of the game when you're going through the Citadel. I had designed these synths that no animator could figure out how to actually move because they weren't built to move.
And much like some of the environments that we've seen, you know, released in the leak that were very dark, some of the early Half-Life stuff was also very dark. But
it was,
at the time, video games were very dark.
In the interim,
he's got a good point.
And
video games were dark.
Because it was the old environments, right? I don't remember how it came
this
about.
Is very old.
Built this level, but the idea was there was some looting going on, and the idea was you're in this little alley and you see a citizen, you hear a voice saying,
"Free TVs, free TVs."
You just got into the TV store.
I just remembered.
And the citizens and the cops are fighting, and you see a citizen run past you holding a TV set, and he goes, "Get one, get a TV, get yourself a TV," and then he runs off down the thing, and you go in another courtyard, and there's a cop with a nightstick and a citizen, and they're like having a fist fight. And it's interesting because the NPCs are negotiating their bounding boxes, and there's some animation like how difficult it is to contact.
We captured everything. We took pictures of whiteboard design sessions. There were really crude drawings and ideas. Some of the stuff from the very beginning made it all the way to the end.
I'm pretty sure I saw a dick somewhere.
Ravenholm, antlions, dog, Kleiner's pet head crab, and you know, those things were just so fun in the moment that how could they not survive, right? The other thing that was really memorable is I remember we started making the world really dystopian.
The stocks collapsed
really
on the
dark
SMG.
at the beginning, and some of the concept art shows that.
In the
We didn't
console
think
plaza,
players would enjoy spending
that's another thing
20
I
or 40
recognise.
hours in such a dark and a kind of oppressive setting. So
I was going to say
game
very
lightened up
oppressive.
considerably over time, but still maintained the feeling of a security state.
So I was trying to get all these cool ideas that the team had already when I arrived and streamline them. Instantly I think we were friends with Mark Laidlaw. We had a common sort of vision and fantasy to create a Orwell-like city.
They were
And
repelling
then
soldiers.
Slowly, I brought context behind that. The idea that we can place this in an anonymous Central Eastern European city, which is a perfect setting because in these countries there were
that's what it was in
so
the
many
retail
waves of
game.
invasions. We had the Ottoman Empire, we had the Russians, and now why not the aliens?
And one of the first maps I remember working on was called Test Room Standards. On Half-Life, every level designer kind of had their own idea of how big stairs were or how big steps were going to be or how big a button was. Make sure we had
that stuff really helps in mapping situations.
Another thing that was sort of important was just getting more people to go on field trips and going to do research. Because I think a lot of the level designers on Half-Life 1, just were building very abstractly. And so we wanted to have some more grounding in reality and have more realistic proportions, and also just get textures were going from hand painted to more photographic. And so we would go out and collect a lot of pictures for those textures to start building for our new library.
I joined.
That's pretty standard these days.
Probably a year after it had started. I know that it was at least a year because I was put on Borealis, which was like everybody else had disowned.
Or the Hyperboreas is also known as.
This is now your problem. So I started on Borealis, and of course I failed at that too. That eventually got cut.
Yeah, so I came in having had experience doing game AI. I was at Looking Glass Studios. Probably the biggest thing I did there was lead programmer on Thief, the Dark Project, did the AI for that too. And actually my first thing is they handed Borealis to me to do
after I'd finished?
To do the AI for
it always gives me a shivers just hovering over the ocean.
There was a bunch of work put into it. We even went on an icebreaker.
There's that cheese I was looking for.
To get reference. As soon as we started to put it together, we realized how unbelievably tight the space was, and you could never make any kind of really interesting combat in it. And so
I recognize the clock.
Withered on the vine right there.
I mean, when I started, there was
the clock that's used in the game.
That was the tech wish list. Yes. It was just this very bare bones bullet list of tech features. And I mean, I think it was like 6 years of work to build that tech list and then realize it into a product and leverage all the implications of it.
As well.
So this was a main feature that the light felt very, very realistic and intuitive because of the source engine and the collaboration between artists and engineers. Ken Birdwell, and he was a fan about photography and getting the lighting right.
The math that we were using was wrong. And not only that, the math that everybody was using was wrong. And then as I started to correct it, and I realized just how bad it was, and then I fixed it, and suddenly everything looked great. I had to go tell the hardware guys, the people who made hardware accelerators, that fundamentally the math was wrong on their cards. That took about 2.5 years.
2.5 years?
The guys. Finally, we hired Gary McTaggart and Charlie Brown.
Just to touch up the lighting.
Had enough pull and enough. I have a fine arts major. Nobody's going to listen to me.
Charlie and I met at college at the University
then again,
of
20
Florida.
years ago.
We were both getting
I guess
computer science
technology was
degrees.
limited.
Yep.
There was no innovation.
I ended up dropping out.
Not much of it.
To go work at 3DFX as employee 11 there. And then I think, Charlie, you actually graduated, didn't you?
I graduated and then followed you, and I was 17 there.
Yeah.
Charlie Brown.
There were three kind of principles. One was to make something that was immersive, visually really rich and appealing, something more like you would see in a film, and the art direction and the technology to make that happen. Second one was to have characters that you cared about, so basically that could react, emote, that mattered in the world instead of just being signposts. Third was to have a responsive environment with physics that mattered.
I think that I, maybe more than other people, realized just how big of a task we were setting for ourselves. Like, so I was a little bit daunted by that.
We felt the pressure from Gabe actually to double down and make something even grander than Half-Life 1. Therein lies the sort of little bit of the trap of Half-Life 2's development story, which went from being a pretty quick, like, let's figure out how to do this to like a 6-year, slog.
Yeah, and it was like, 6-7 days a week, 10 to 14 hours a day.
Yeah, we're gonna cut your feature. Sorry, it's just not worth it.
So I ended up being really the point person working with the FBI.
I remember coming in that morning and figuring it out, and it just felt like someone had just punched me in the gut.
What's this mean?
That's the gravity gun.
We still keep working on the game?
They actually made all that in real life.
Game tomorrow?
I definitely was
That
not
is sick.
shielded from that.
I remember one conversation with Gabe, which is like, he was like, so how fucked are we? Yeah, we're
How fucked are we?
The company was pretty close to going bankrupt. I was pretty close to going personally bankrupt. It's like there was no money left.
I can't think of another case when that happened. Yeah, a real bullshit move.
Are we allowed to cry in this documentary? That's what I want to know.
Oh, that's funny. Chapter 2, Performance. What's my time left? I'll let it go on for Chapter 2. I was gonna cut it here, but I'll let it carry on for a bit.
And, the world loved it. And we're just super happy. Like, yeah, we did this thing. And we had a big meeting, and Gabe looks at me and goes like, so all the animations are terrible. How are you going to make Half-Life 2 better?
In Half-Life 1, we made what were at the time significant improvements, but still they were fairly robotic and mechanical, and so we had to go and do a huge amount of work on the animation system and on the facial animation system and coming up with authoring tools that allowed you to do it.
Well, and the line.
A lot of this was level design, like figuring out how to build atmosphere. We knew that we wanted to start you off seeing the Citadel right away. And we wanted to introduce you to the city with this great voice acting from Robert Culp. We wanted to finally do real characters. We knew that from Half-Life 1, the way that players would respond to having any character talk to them was like way beyond the reaction that we expected. Like when we figured this out in playtesting, like if Barney would follow you around and shoot things, you just love this guy, and you love the scientists, and you love these characters. So we knew we wanted to just bring that like way up to the next like levels beyond what we could imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh.
And the theory was if we could make a character who could act realistically, that would help the player make an emotional connection to the other characters in the game. And at the time we decided we were going to do that, not only did none of the technology work, but I would go talk to industry professionals and they would tell me not to bother because you couldn't do it. Luckily found a research work done in the 70s by Dr. Paul Ekman. And he had just broken down how the face works and how humans make expressions. And he had this incredibly wonderful, formal, clinical description of what a face does and the sorts of things that normal people do with their face.
That was touched on in the E3
tried this
demo,
experiment with putting a grid on Scott Lynch's face and shooting him from the front and the side so that we could get points from this grid in 3 space for the geometry, and we got shots of his texture, and we found a good way to model a reasonable head, of his geometry, and then project the texture onto it, and then abstract it or stylize it enough so that it didn't look totally photographic, but it looked like kind of a real person.
Occasionally, when somebody hears the history, it will, generate a light bulb. But no, I don't get a costume.
No one's asking you for beers or anything?
No. Or buying me beers.
We added Ken's eye tech to that, which was amazing because he really modeled and he went deep into the research of how eyes work.
Eyeballs was about 9 months. Just on eyeballs and
9 months on eyeballs.
But you have to do each step. You have to get the shape of the eye right. You have to get how the eyelid gets pushed by the cornea and the ball of the eye. So as your eyes move around, all, your lower lid, your upper lid, all of those get shifted slightly, and it's all automatic.
Yeah.
It was
It's definitely a
the
step
day
up from
I
Halo
got it
Combat
working,
Evolved.
The characters went from looking like interesting dolls to, Alex just looked at me. Oh my God, this is working.
They would ask for surprising things at times. Like they wanted really fine control over looking at named objects in the 3D world, no matter what direction the actor is facing. So you had to figure out things about, oh, maybe the upper body needs to turn and the head needs to turn and the eyes need to turn.
So we're in the elevator coming back from Starbucks to get morning coffee, and we saw this face, and it's like, that's him.
Yeah,
that's
Dr.
the
Kleiner.
scientist. And
That's the guy we want.
in the firm below ours in Kirkland.
Yeah, nothing kind of blows your mind when you've been working all day on this character in your game, and all of a sudden you get on the elevator and you're
that's
like,
just a chance encounter, isn't it?
I once ran into him at the airport.
So we cast people that were real change vendors in front of supermarkets.
Oh, it's so weird seeing them in real life.
In restaurants.
When I was in junior high school, I took
But
karate
I know
classes,
some of the...
and that was my old karate instructor.
Randy Lundeen said, hey...
I know some of the female citizens would model after some of the wives of the developers.
20 every day, who has this great
so
face,
I've heard,
took
anyway.
a picture of his face, and he stopped and asked if he could. And so it's like, oh, this is great. I think this guy's Eli.
Wow.
We brought him in and, paid him a couple $100, which is what we were paying people back then, and so that's where he came from.
Erdine Gasic
so
was
good.
a Bosnian friend from I knew from school. He was like, we want the East European contingent and stuff too, so it was pretty interesting.
We wanted anybody to feel a part of the world when they're playing it as the player, and so we found people from pretty much every skin color, different ages, male and female, equal numbers of males and females. Sadly for them, they all had to share the same voice actor.
Sadly for us, too.
We dropped the crater rockets coming across the plaza. We hoped for one more fighter to help storm that barricade. We never dreamed it would be you.
Kleiner's Lab was the first prototype that we did of how characters could work together in a scene.
It was like a proof of concept. We kind of had to make that work, and put everything we could into it at the time to test all the technology.
Yeah, I remember that screenshot.
What can we do? What else can we do with this?
Turning it into a performance.
Oh my God.
Would be engaging rather
so
than
many
just
polygons.
audio, radio play kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, that was the point where that scene was where it all started to come together, all our theories and hopes for what the experience might be.
And it all went completely smoothly. It was out of the box. It was amazing.
The most difficult technical aspects are really kind of boring. They're the character is running through AI and now they need to jump in and do, hug another character. Now they need to pick up something from the desk, and that thing on the desk can move, and where the character is can move, and where the player is can move, and everything about this whole scene can move dynamically. And to get to that stage where it just looks right is this huge technical challenge and artistic challenge.
Especially with the hugging part.
It's just amazing.
How can that even work without some sort of real life reference?
Gordon, snap out of it. You're staring at me again.
Warming up nicely.
Are you sure you don't want me to swap out the polarizer?
That's not necessary.
When we got
just
Fletcher
checking margin,
on,
just checking for
and he
potential
would
margin
kind of
interference in the
teach us
interstices.
about how they did things at Disney, and they would bring in
Conditions
acting
could
coaches
hardly be
for the
more
animators.
ideal.
What does sarcasm look like? Certain expressions,
Right.
and there's a timing to those expressions.
Acting coaches,
and-
that would
When you
make
have a
sense though.
scene with multiple characters, it's not always the person talking that's doing the acting, right? Everybody's acting. Even though you may be looking at Kleiner because he's the one talking, every character in that scene around you, behind you, they're all doing
every
stuff,
single
because
character is
not
moving
everybody's
and
gonna
making
be
an
looking at the
expression.
same place.
Yeah, I remember even just like when Alex teleports and then you see her show up on the screen, right?
Oh, that was
and she's
incredible.
Heads over,
Yeah,
gives
it
him
was
a quick,
great.
gives him a quick kiss, and what? Like it tells you so much about the relationship without having to say, "Hi, Dad, I love you," and all this extra like heavy-handed stuff. So.
Jake was a random demo reel that was sent in. That was incredible.
Jake was incredible.
Jake was incredible. Like, miss that guy.
One of a kind.
Yeah, miss that guy. Amazing technical animator.
Yeah, I mean, Jake was one of those guys that, whatever needed to be done, he would figure it out and just make it happen, you know.
That was all one guy.
Done correctly.
I think also the context
That
of
is
when
very
all this
impressive.
was taking place, like the
Bullsquid.
problems that he was helping solve.
Just one
was
single
things
animator
that
for all
weren't
this.
being
That's
done.
great.
Even something as simple as
That is so
passing-
impressive.
Passing someone an object between two characters sounds super simple, but actually
Yeah,
really
back then it
complex,
was-
especially back then.
Yeah.
And so he really helped push, like, how do we even do this in collaboration with the programmers.
Zabi wanted to do a goo thing, so I worked on the shader for that. I did the stuff for rendering that and all the little monitors everywhere that showed other scenes. Did the refraction shaders and the code,
The render target
supporting code
cameras,
for
as they're
that.
called.
The shaders didn't really have
The cameras.
conditionals or loops or anything like that, so we would unroll it all and compile a bazillion shaders. It got to the point where it was so many shaders and it took so long to compile that we, I think Mike DeSalt implemented distributed building system. Everyone's machine in the company was running something that could sit there and compile shaders all the time or do lighting for the levels or whatever.
It's all like any opportunity to kind of add to the
The main
visual
teleporter.
storytelling, I think was.
That little hula doll
we hid the
Easter egg.
first G-Man sighting there.
He was
First
one,
G-Man
that's right,
shots.
he was one of the monitor.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
would flip to him. Yeah.
And then he'd just walk out of frame.
The moment where you see him makes you realize there must be a lot of moments where you didn't know he was watching you. He's not Big
He's
Brother.
always
That-
watching.
That doesn't make sense to me that he would be a big brother because
I
that's
like
sort of
that. Put on
industrial
bathroom tiles.
and bureaucratic. And this is much more intimate. He's
Well, no, I
always
think
over your shoulder, watching, waiting.
He's the voice
for
actor.
the moment to speak. That's where I think he
Mike
lives.
Shapiro, yeah.
My name is Mike Shapiro, and
Shapiro,
I am
sorry. What's his
G-Man.
name?
I am also
Barney.
Yeah. And you know, Barney's not. He's not that far from, you know, G. Gordon. Like he's not that far from where I live. You know, he's so fallible and you know, he's always tripping over himself and that he's just such a good guy. You know.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the most capable, but just really there for you.
Get that thing away from
Everybody
me.
needs a Barney
Yeah,
in
my
their
bad.
life.
Hop up.
I think early on I had a sense that G-Man knew a lot and was taking care of a lot that we didn't quite understand, was kind of enjoying fucking with people and massaging reality in a way that he had a unique capacity to do. There were also aspects to him that I knew pretty early on, like his relationship to time is very different than you or I would think. In my mind, he could literally be in two places at once, and so sometimes there was a kind of an implied hitch in his timing, or
Yeah. Like, sorry to pause, but I do remember reading about one theory about G-Man, is that if you remember the final boss of the original Half-Life, the Nihilanth, I do remember seeing a theory that G-Man could actually be another one of those. Like, even though in the game, the Nihilanth states to Gordon he is the last of his kind, it might not actually be possible because... But why else? Since they have 3 arms and everything, like the Vortigaunts and the alien grunts, why else do you think that the G-Man would be fiddling his tie all the time? Could it actually be a 3rd arm? Like these are some of these theories that we don't know about. There's so much to G-Man's character that there's so much more than meets the eye, is what I'm trying to say. It's just mind-boggling to think about, especially after about 20 years. No, exactly 20 years, not about 20 years, exactly 20 years. Anyway, carry on.
he's experiencing 2 or 3 different moments at once, and that might be funny for a reason that you don't know because you're only in one time with him at a moment.
The right man in the wrong place can make all the difference in the world.
I think as we realized
So,
how well she
wake
worked,
up,
coming out of stuff like the
Mr.
Climber's
Freeman.
Lab experience, we started
Wake up
looking
and
for more and more ways
smell
to
the
include her
ashes.
in stuff.
And of course, she really came to life when we found Merle Dandridge.
Yeah. We could feel her already as a partner
Ah.
in creating this character,
Right.
I think, coming out of that. She's just got a creative
Yeah, I can see the
relationship with
resemblance.
this character, and she's going to bring a lot to it.
I feel like she was really able to bring a warmth and
But
and
is she the
humor
physical reference or
into
the
her
voice
deliveries,
actress?
Too, that
That's
other
what I wanna know.
people- It was more like Soldier in a game a little bit. I mean, she did this great job of bringing like a the character warmth into it.
Yeah.
And now we're sitting ducks unless we can get this thing running. Come on, Dr. Kleiner, is it gonna work or not?
No, there's nothing to be nervous about. Let's see. Massless Field Flagship Self-Limited. Oh, that's his voice actor.
My name is Harry Robbins. I'm known as Hal Robbins.
Hal Robbins.
Stage name of Dr. Hal. My only doctorate is in theology from the Church of the Genius, which I'm involved in.
He was the voice of the scientist in the original game as well,
I
wasn't he?
think perhaps
Not
Mark
just
was
Kleiner.
familiar with the things I do on the radio, and he thought my voice would be good for it. I have a monthly Ask Dr. Hal show on Twitch and Zoom.
Oh,
and
he's a Twitch
also
streamer.
On a couple of radio
cool.
shows. Well, I'm a graphic artist. I've worked for DC Comics for their Paradox Press line. Well, I have
So he's done a
patrons
lot.
who I do painting for. I've painted many things for them. I played Dr. Isaac Kleiner after I did the voice of a number of different scientists. I try to
mainly just
pronounce
one.
all the words.
One voice first.
I make sure to aspirate consonants. For example, I don't say didn't the way most people do, even newscasters today. I always make sure to say didn't. Perhaps it sounds archaic that way. Mark wrote
it sounds more clear, doesn't it?
into my dialogue, and I would say things like "oh fi" and so forth.
Oh
No,
fi.
up there. No.
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 Careful, Lamar. Those are quite fragile.
Oh,
fi. It'll be another week before I can coax her out of there.
Yeah,
Longer if we're lucky. Maybe I can convince her to stay longer.
You're not an animal person.
I love doing the
It was
impressions, I'm
always
sorry.
pleasant. I was always well treated. They were always patient.
So well
Even If I
acted.
mispronounced something which was obvious, they would correct me and I would pay attention. And I always try to be as close as possible to a one-take wonder so they don't have to do it again. But that enabled them to do it many times. And so they had a lot of things which arose from that. And some of these are the things I'm asked to say by fans, which are inexplicable to people who don't know the game. Like, you want this guy to say, "Have you seen my coffee cup?" And why do we all have to wear these ridiculous ties?
Ridiculous ties. Wow. Oh, you know what? Well, we can continue on with Chapter 3 next time, but I think that's a good place to end it. And that has been the first part of the reaction to the 20th anniversary documentary of Half-Life 2, and I really hope you enjoyed my reaction to it. For whatever reason, even with the sort of average voice impressions. But like I said, they also did the 25th anniversary for the original game. If you want to see a video on that, let me know in the comments. And I will continue on with this maybe tomorrow. I don't know if it'll be out by today or tomorrow, because it takes a while for my videos to render. So, I think... Yeah, the second part of my playthrough of Black Mesa Blue Shift is finishing up right now, so... But anyway, that's where I'm going to end this one. I'll separate this into separate parts, depending on how long it is. Because the entire thing is about 2 hours long. But if you like what you saw for whatever reason, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Share this video with your friends and family as well. It helps out the channel a bunch. And, well, while you're at it, since I mentioned Black Mesa Blue Shift, why don't you check out my second channel down in the description. There's a link down there, along with my other social media pages. But that's going to be it for me. This has been Gibbs2Boy5 on the main channel, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.